going to continue with the different winners from the 2024 award winners and to talk about planning and delivery of events with three winners joining: Mathieu Talot from Spartner, Jérémy Blondin from Playground, and Deborah Stavridis from Louise Event. So that we can continue with our discussions.
Good morning. Take your seats.
Bonjour à tous et toutes. Alors, on a avec nous donc, je vous le disais, Mathieu Talot.
So, Mathieu Talot, who's the event director of Spartner. Spartner has a cross-cutting expertise on large events. In the 2023 year was particularly intense for you, since Spartner had a different role, but you were a part of all the major international sport events. So tell us about that 2023 years. Good morning to all of you. Yes, it was a sequence that was rather dense for us, intense for us. So we supported the three major international events. So first of all, Courchevel-Méribel downhill skiing championships. So it happened really quickly. It was just 1 year, but it was the whole management of the whole facilities for hosting the people. So it seemed huge because it's a mountainous area, so you can imagine the traffic, the number of people. So it was a huge challenge finding a room, finding accommodation for everyone. So we did rise to the challenge. It was a great event, and then it was the World Para-Athletics, that is to say, the World Championship for para-athletes. It's the largest para-athlete event after the Games, which means it's a rather huge kind of event. And here again, we had a partnership with the French Handisport Federation. We support them in most of their large events. So there we supported them with general coordination, protocol, the VIP management, security, accommodation, transportation again. So here with the kind of logistic constraints, you can imagine that with 400 athletes in wheelchairs, we had to move them around to find accommodation for them, which made things, it was a huge event. And then in September last year, the Rugby World Cup, where we came actually rather late into the process. There was a change in the governance a year before the first game, which means that there was a shift in the planning. They opened a call for tenders, which we did manage to get in February 2023. That is to say, 7 months before the beginning of the competition, which says that we had what we call orphaned functions. So there's a lot of work that had already been done by the previous JIP teams that had done remarkable work, but they were understaffed most of the time. So we had to supplement their own teams and try to find some sort of link in the whole coordination with the direction of the entire pole. So what was missing actually was a little bit of coordination and some of what we call them orphaned functions, you know, the logistics, the broadcast. And I'm looking at Jeremy because he was present too, which means that it was a really rich year in 2023. So yeah, configuring the stadiums over the last weeks. So you worked a lot on that 2023 year, but then 2024 came really quickly with, again, lots of missions, with the delivery of the Yves du Manoir stadium in Colombes. It was a little different because you said you had to work really quickly on the Rugby World Cup. You were on that particular event more able to anticipate, right? Yes, in 2023, we were already working a lot in Paris 2024 because you heard with Pan Am 2024, there was a whole planning is very important, and delivery. An event is never a few weeks before. It's that size. It's months or years before that you start working on them. So on Paris 2024, we were able to work on a lot of different files, such as the Yves du Manoir, where we were the delivery entity for Paris 2024. It's a new format for site delivery. So it's an adventure that started at the beginning of 2021 with a whole year of building of sites. Paris 2024 was also learning as they went, on that delivery. So the whole planning process had to be reinvented from the start. And we were able to use the same format for 4 soccer stadiums as a delivery entity. The Paris Entertainment Company for La Chapelle and Bercy. We had really big clients for transportation with over 200 buses to get the OBS and the International Federation people too. So we had lots of HR that was deployed. It was huge and it was fascinating. So for Paris 2024, you had the upper hand on the stadium, inside of the stadium, which means that everything, the accreditations, etc., etc. Yes. Pretty much for the 4 soccer stadium or Yves du Manoir, we were co-steering with Paris 2024 that remained present on site, but in Stadia was what it was up to them. We had to find the right providers, catering, the cleaning, the security to make sure that the site was safe, the whole media operation, the whole welcoming of the public. What was complicated was actually technical for Yves du Manoir, because it seems, it's not obvious because it seems to be a fixed stadium. There was a lot of temporary facilities with 2 competition fields, 15,000 seats to build. So it was a huge challenge from an engineering point of view, which is not something you necessarily imagine, but it had to be really subtle in terms of granularity that we had to get into just to make sure that we didn't damage the facility that is owned by the département. But you're still there. We just finished. We just given them back the keys. There's a little bit of finishing to do, but we did give them the keys back. And everything happened smoothly. Yes, apparently. So, Jérémy Blondet, you are the event business unit director. So, in order to make the major events to be fluid, you talk about the fleet of vehicles, the parking areas. So, but you do that more regularly for the French Open, and you use a tool called Element. So, how did you use Element to support these various important events? Well, the adventure started at Playground approximately a year ago, because the first challenge that we have to face were the World Championships in 2017 for transportation, accommodation, and catering. So it was wrestling. It was the wrestling championship. So Element is a tool that enables the organizer to steer, manage, and to make the right decisions at the right moments. So rather than having 50,000 Excel spreadsheets, we had a tool that brings all the Excel sheets together to have an overview, a general overview with everyone, all the providers, to have the order at the right time and make the right decision. Because in events, the most important thing, time is money. So the whole transportation, accommodation, and catering. So we started in 2017 on these 3 modules: transportation, accommodation, and catering. And we had other major international sports events. We used other tools such as, of course, Paris 24. So how much did you use that tool during the games, and from a practical point of view? So the heart of the software that we've been developing for several years was the transportation module. But because for the French Open that we have been working on for 5 years, and also the Rugby World Cup, and also the Female Soccer World Cup in 2019, we have managed to remain humble because we have managed to really make it available to the co-op. We were able to manage 3,000 vehicles, approximately 75,000 people, for a total of approximately 125,000 transfer during the Olympic and Paralympic Games. What about bicycles? Well, for bikes, we were able to cooperate with the COJO and the local authorities on what we call soft mobility, because Playground is owned by a group called CT that is an expert for soft mobility internationally. So which means that we have also made some headway towards using more soft mobility in the future. So we were able to provide parking spaces for bicycles inside of Paris and also outside of Paris on the outskirts. So as you said, you have regular events such as the French Open. So through the large events, did you use the tools from the French Open for the larger events, or is it the other way around? Well, actually, all the events that we work on enable us to develop further our software. As I said, we've been using it for 8 years, but the clients were asking for new features every time, and we tried to meet that demand. And then internally, the new ideas from our clients also give us food for thought internally. So we have a whole list of developments that we want to do on transportation, accommodation, catering, and other modules that hospitality, delivery, etc. etc. And all of this enables to have sort of like an endless list of features that we would like to develop that we either use for our own events, because we do organize our own events, so we use that tool as well, or for very specific client events. Thank you so much. So Deborah, you are working for Wiz Event. You were in charge of security and access control on a very large scale for the opening ceremony of the Games, the very first one, where QR codes were needed. So tell us what you implemented. So good morning to all of you. So with event, our client was the Préfecture, the police of Paris. So our project was to secure the access on the 9 kilometers along this river, along the Seine, for the opening ceremony. So the project was to really deliver the QR codes. So that is to say, the game passes once the people had registered on the platform, whether they were people who lived there, workers, or just temporary visitors. So once the application had been reviewed, we gave them the flash codes, the QR code, and then we would control their access for the 10-day periods, 24 hours a day. Yes, so there was had a little setup inside of the Préfecture de Police. So was it called the Bureau of Legends? No, we didn't give it a name. So the project was rather large. We had over 2 million people who registered on the platform. We were interfaced with the Ministry for the Interior so that the identities of the people who had registered could be validated by them, and then the flash codes, the game passes could be given to them. So it was actually a huge endeavor. And then for access for the opening ceremony, we had approximately 400 different areas, points where people would enter, where we would do control the access 24 hours a day. So I suppose you had 10 days prior to the ceremony to adapt all of this. Exactly. So it was always moving the perimeter because of the security issues, the constraints, the exemptions that we were giving to users. They were changing all the time. And then we had to synchronize our devices in real time so that we could adapt to all the developments developments in the various developments, late developments in the project. And so, for instance, when the area was broadened with the Trocadéro on D-Day, we were able to implement a reliable solution and have a secure perimeter. So you've already worked on the Vendée Globe, the 2016 championship, and then the ski event. So why was it different this time? Well, in several different ways. We were contacted approximately a year ago for that project. A lot of discussion ensued. And then the project actually started in January with the delivery of the project at the beginning of May. So all of this with rather strong issues with security. So we had to work a lot on the cyber side of things so that the user data could be safe because they were giving us their IDs. So there was a lot of auditing that had to be done prior to that. And then there was a lot of, it was changing all the time. The dimension of the project was constantly moving throughout those 3 months. So that's one first aspect of things. But then in parallel, the heart of our work is ticketing, but we had also to implement phone support, a technical and information hotline for users. It was a multilingual hotline so that people could be helped in their registration process. Then we had a fleet of mobile mobile people who were there for maintenance. They were driving around Paris on scooters, going to all the different places. And then at the same time, we also had the Club France with all of our solutions, where there was the ticketing, the access control, and then also payment on food and beverage. Thanks to our solution, accreditations for staff and partners, while also having the usual, what we normally do, the ticketing that we do during the summer season. So 1,000 events during the periods plus the games, exactly, or the games plus 1,000 events. So that is a lot of human factors, a lot of human staff involved. So we've worked a lot about 2023 and 2024. When you have 2 years that are so intense, do you have enough brain space to prepare what comes next? Of course, we have to. The whole ecosystem has already started that process. Of course, it's something that you need to deliver properly all the regular events at exactly the same level at what we were doing before. So that's the first thing. And then second, of course, we have to be ready for the next stage. We don't have a choice. It's a temporary thing. So of course, collectively, what we experience is unheard of. It's unforgettable. It's incredible. But the epicenter of the mega events. So of course, there will be other major international sports events. We are going to remain a land for that. But the epicenter is going to shift in the next years. It's going to move to different areas in the Middle East or in the Gulf countries, or in Australia, in the US, of course. Which means that we need to adapt. That what is very important for us, the kind of thinking that we started to do beforehand, is that how are we going to learn to take away from the legacy of the game so that we can export globally? So, of course, it's actually quite natural. In order to deliver what we delivered for the games, you need to have international expertise. You have to have international partners, which means that knowledge, that sort of fiber that we have developed, we try and to turn it into something practical on our territory. So of course we have started thinking about that. Of course we're thinking about it. We want to turn it into practical. So as you said, you have partnership with local relays to support you on these new territories. So for you, Jérémy, what is your playground, large sports events or other kinds of events? It's true, we have talked a lot about legacy, just like we did now. But our first response was to have a tool that is as performing as possible accessible, that would be that meet the needs of large sports events. But for any kind of event, whatever the size, if you have transportation, catering, and accommodation, from the moment that you have your memory is not enough to remember how many people and what service for what person, you need an Excel sheet, then you can use our tool, and you can adapt our tools. So of course we work with large international sports events, but we want to have that added value, because the most difficult with software, with our software, and I suppose with other software, it's development that's the most time-consuming, the most cost, because you need to test, retest, and retest again. We were able to do that over the last years, which means that we have that tool that we can provide to operators that maybe think they don't have enough means, but actually with our tool can. So anyone can use our tool. So what about abroad? Is it a playground that you're thinking about? Yes, it's we're working on it. We've been working for several years. We were able to work in Africa, in Italy, and of course these are a part of the markets that we really tried to conquer, to compete on. The big events, the last events, is that our software is known globally. So we, of course, are a niche as far as software is concerned, but we are able to work with other organization. Community LA, do you talk with us? Well, we'll see. It's a little early, but it's also the environment may be changed with everything that happens currently. What about you, Deborah? Is it a turning point, the Olympic Games? Of course, yes, somehow. But for us, what was interesting is that we are known, we are recognized as a company that is able to work on large events with either acute security issues. We used to be working already for the French presidency or the French ministry, but the fact that we have the experience with the game, it means that it's really part of our expertise, and it kind of opens the opportunities for international, for like COP or G7 in France again. We could probably bring our security expertise on that kind of event. For international, globally, it's a little more complicated because of privacy, data privacy, because depending on the country, you can't, the privacy, data privacy protection is maybe a little different. But the fact that, with the Game Pass, the volume of registration, the volume of IDs and certificates, we had almost 4 million reviews, 12 million scans on the period prior to the ceremony. It means that we are very credible, because for our external partners and internally, it's really brought everyone together, because the challenges were huge, the complexity was huge. It's really brought everyone together, to be able to say we're part of an event with a brand such as the Olympic Games. It's incredible. It's great. So of course, yes, it is some kind of a turning point. I hear a lot of pride in everything that you say, all three of you, to have been able to take part in all these major sport events in the games and the French Games. So congratulations again, because you are winners of this award event. So thank you very much for being with us, and we'll see you again tonight.